For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled.
We start with a point. Like the point we know from geometry, it has no size, no dimension. It's just an imaginary idea that indicates a position in a system. A second point, then, can be used to indicate a different position. But it, too, is of indeterminate size. To create the first dimension, all we need is a line joining any 2 points. A first-dimensional object has length only, no width or depth. If we now take our first-dimensional line and draw a second line crossing the first, we've entered the second dimension. The object we're representing now has a length and a width, but no depth. To help us with imagining the higher dimensions, we're going to represent our second-dimensional object as being created using a second line which branches off from the first. Now let's imagine a race of two-dimensional creatures called flatlanders. What would it be like to be a flatlander living in their two-dimensional world? A two-dimensional creature would have only length and width, as if they were the royalty on an impossibly flat playing card. Picture this. A flatlander couldn't possibly have a digestive tract because the pipe from their mouth to their bottom would divide them into 2 pieces. And a flatlander trying to view our three-dimensional world would only be able to perceive shapes in two-dimensional cross-sections. A balloon, for instance, would start as a tiny dot, become a hollow circle which inexplicably grows to a certain size, then shrinks back to a dot before popping out of existence. And we three-dimensional human beings would seem very strange indeed to a flatlander. Imagining the third dimension is the easiest for us, because every moment of our lives, that's what we're in. A three-dimensional object has length, width, and height. But here's another way to describe the third dimension. If we imagine an ant walking across a newspaper which is lying on a table, we can pretend that the ant is a flatlander, walking along on a flat two-dimensional newspaper world. If that paper is now folded in the middle, we create a way for our flatlander ant to magically disappear from one position in his two-dimensional world and be instantly transported to another. We can imagine that we did this by taking a two-dimensional object and folding it through the dimension above, which is our third dimension. Once again, it'll be more convenient for us as we imagine the higher dimensions if we can think of the third dimension in this way. The third dimension is what you fold through to jump from one point to another in the dimension below. The first 3 dimensions can be described with these words: length, width, and depth. What word can we assign to the fourth dimension? One answer would be duration. If we think of ourselves as we were 1 minute ago, and then imagine ourselves as we are at this moment, the line we could draw from the 1 minute ago version to the right now version would be a line in the fourth dimension. If you were to see your body in the fourth dimension, you'd be like a long undulating snake, with your embryonic self at one end and your deceased self at the other. But because we live from moment to moment in the third dimension, we're like our second-dimensional flatlanders. Just like that flatlander who could only see two-dimensional cross-sections of objects from the dimension above, we, as three-dimensional creatures, can only see three-dimensional cross-sections of our fourth-dimensional self. One of the most intriguing aspects of there being one dimension stacked on another is that down here in the dimensions below we can be unaware of our motion in the dimensions above. Here's a simple example. If we make a Mobius strip, take a long strip of paper, add one twist to it and take the ends together, and draw a line down the length of it, our line will eventually be on both sides of the paper before it meets back with itself. It appears, somewhat amazingly, that the strip has only one side, so it must be a representation of a two-dimensional object. And this means that a two-dimensional flatlander, traveling down the line we just drew, would end up back where they started without ever feeling like they had left the second dimension. In reality, they would be looping and twisting in the third dimension, even though to them it felt like they were traveling in a straight line. The fourth dimension, time, feels like a straight line to us, moving from the past to the future. But that straight line in the fourth dimension is, like the Mobius strip, actually twisting and turning in the dimension above. So the long undulating snake that is us will feel like it is moving in a straight line in the fourth dimension, but there will actually be, in the fifth dimension, a multitude of paths that we could branch to at any given moment. Those branches will be influenced by our own choice, chance, and the actions of others. Quantum physics tells us that the subatomic particles that make up our world are collapsed from waves of probabilities simply by the act of observation. In the picture we are drawing for ourselves here, we can now start to see how each of us are collapsing the indeterminate wave of probable futures contained in the fifth dimension into the fourth dimensional line that we are experiencing as time. What if you wanted to go back into your own childhood and visit yourself? We can imagine folding the fourth dimension through the fifth, jumping back through time and space to get there. But what if you wanted to get to the world where, for example, you had created a great invention as a child that by now had made you famous and rich? We can imagine our fourth dimensional selves branching out from our current moment into the fifth dimension. But no matter where you go from here, the great child inventor timeline is not one of the available options in your current version of time. You can't get there from here, no matter how much choice, chance, and the actions of others become involved. There are only two ways you could get to that world. One would be to travel back in time, somehow trigger the events that caused you to come up with your invention, then travel forward in the fifth dimension to see one of the possible new worlds that might have resulted. But that would be taking the long way. The shortcut we could take would involve us folding the fifth dimension through the sixth dimension, which allows us to instantly jump from our current position to a different fifth dimensional line. In our description of the fourth dimension, we imagine taking the dimension below and conceiving of it as a single point. The fourth dimension is a line which can join the universe as it was 1 minute ago to the universe as it is right now. Or, in the biggest picture possible, we could say that the fourth dimension is a line which joins the Big Bang to one of the possible endings of our universe. Now, as we enter the seventh dimension, we're about to imagine a line which treats the entire sixth dimension as if it were a single point. To do that, we have to imagine all the possible timelines, which could have started from our Big Bang, joined to all the possible endings for our universe, a concept which we often refer to as infinity, and treat them all as a single point. So for us, a point in the seventh dimension would be infinity. All possible timelines, which could have or will have occurred from our Big Bang. When we describe infinity as being a point in the seventh dimension, we're only imagining part of the picture. If we're drawing a seventh dimensional line, we need to be able to imagine what a different point in the seventh dimension is going to be, because that's what our line is going to be joined to. But how can there be anything more than infinity? The answer is, there can be other completely different infinities created through initial conditions which are different from our own Big Bang. Different initial conditions will create different universes, where the basic physical laws such as gravity or the speed of light are not the same as ours. And the resulting branching timelines from that universe's beginning to all its possible endings will create an infinity which is completely separate from the one which is associated with our own universe. So the line we draw in the seventh dimension will join one of those infinities to another. And as boggling as the magnitude of what we're exploring here might be, if we were to branch off from that seventh dimensional line to draw a line to yet another infinity, we'd then be entering the eighth dimension. As we've explored already, we can jump from one point in any dimension to another simply by folding it through the dimension above. If our ant on the newspaper were a two-dimensional flatlander, then folding his two-dimensional world through the third dimension would allow him to magically disappear from one location and appear in a different one. As we're now imagining the ninth dimension, the same rules would apply. If we were to be able to instantaneously jump from one eighth-dimensional line to another, it would be because we're able to fold through the ninth dimension. Before we discuss the first dimension, we could say that we first started out with dimension 0, which is the geometrical concept of the point. A point indicates a location in a system, and each point is of indeterminate size. The first dimension then takes two of these points and joins them with a line. When we imagined the fourth dimension, it was as if we were treating the entirety of three-dimensional space in a particular state as a single point, and drawing a fourth-dimensional line to another point, representing space as it is in a different state. We often refer to the line we have just drawn as time. Then, in the seventh dimension, we treated all of the possible timelines which could be generated from our Big Bang as if this were a single point, and imagine drawing a line to a point representing all the possible timelines for a completely different universe. Now, as we enter the 10th dimension, we have to imagine all the possible branches for all the possible timelines of all the possible universes and treat that as a single point in the 10th dimension. So far, so good. But this is where we hit a roadblock. If we're going to imagine the 10th dimension as continuing the cycle and being a line, then we're going to have to imagine a different point that we can draw that line to. But there's no place left to go. By the time we have imagined all possible timelines for all possible universes as being a single point in the 10th dimension, it appears that our journey is done. In string theory, physicists tell us that superstrings vibrating in the 10th dimension are what create the subatomic particles which make up our universe, and all of the other possible universes as well. In other words, all possibilities are contained within the 10th dimension, which would appear to be the concept we have just built for ourselves, as we imagined the 10 dimensions built one upon another.
Hello everybody out there. This is the tittle of the day for today. And today it's part 3 in dimensions. And we'll take a look at a few things today. The first part is, you saw in that video that I played, if I got it uploaded properly, that the third dimension folds into other dimensions, right? Higher dimensions and lower dimensions. It's something about the third dimension can fold, as they said in that video, okay? So first thing I thought when I heard that was Jesus said that he has another fold, right, that he has to help or go to or things like that. So let's look at that in John 10:16-18, which says this.
And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father.
Okay, so it's interesting, right? Like he's saying, first of all, he's talking about all of us as people, but also like, you know, the Hebrew people and the Gentiles, okay? He's talking about that, Samaritans, all the different people of this, in this world, in this dimension. But to me, it sounds like he's also speaking of other dimensions, right? Because we know that he went to the other dimension of Sheol, Abraham's bosom, in Hades, right? I mean, when he died. So he could be speaking, or when he passed over, speaking of that here, when he's saying that he has to go to the other fold to get the ones that are of another fold, right? Okay. And so I thought that was pretty interesting when you put those together. And he says, therefore does the Father love me, because I lay down my life. Well, because he laid down his life, he was able to move into that other fold or dimension, right? And was able to come back. As he says, I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it again. So he has the power to resurrect, right? To come from this dimension to the other dimensions. If we look at Isaiah 7:11, it says, ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God. Ask it either in the depth or in the height above. So it's like, ask for a sign, ask for the truth about like the spiritual realities of realms and different things, and he'll give it to you, whether the height, the heavens, or the depths, the evil parts, right? Like Hades and the lake of fire and outer darkness and the second heaven, you know, outer space, all those type of things, okay? Okay, also, I know I've gone over this before, but Ephesians 3:18-21, these are the 4 dimensions, right? This is speaking of the 4 dimensions. So let's listen to that again.
May be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with all the fullness of God. Now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us, unto him be glory in the church by Christ Jesus throughout all ages, world without end.
Right.
Amen.
So just any dimension, any spiritual realm, he can move into it without end. So you see that the breadth, the length, the depth, and the height, like 4 dimensions that we're in. Also, it's interesting if you look at Ken Hovitz, I think I said his name right. His teachings about Genesis 1:1. You know, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, time, God created the heavens, space, and the earth, matter, time, space, matter. Everything's made up of that, and it's a trinity. And he also talks about how time is a trinity. It's the past, the present, and the future, and that matter is a trinity, right? It's liquid, solid, and gas, and space is also like a trinity, and also it goes beyond that right here to the 4th dimension. You see that? So it's like all those dimensions were kind of put together, which brings me into the next part, which it's hard for me to explain this exactly because I'm not for sure on it. But there was a rabbi a long time ago who took Genesis 1 and broke it down and showed that it had 10 different dimensions in it, right? And I'm not going to go into all of that, but I was just going to show how he said every time God said or Elohim said, it was like another dimension being made. And there's 10, right? Like Genesis 1:3, and Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Okay. In verse 6, Elohim said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it be divided from the waters." Okay, so you see every time, if you go in there, look, verse 9, Elohim said, verse 11, and Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth grass." Verse 14, Elohim said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens." Verse 20, Elohim said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly." Verse 24, Elohim said. Verse 26, Elohim said, "Let man be in our image." Verse 28, Elohim said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply." Verse 29, Elohim said, "Behold, I have given thee." Okay, so it just goes on. And I believe in Genesis 2, it says Elohim said certain things, like it's not good to man strive alone or things like that. So he broke it down. I can't remember what his name is right now. Got a mind block. But if you want to look that up, then, or if you want to know about that more, then send me a comment and I'll find what his name is. But he did an exhaustive study on that, about how that he believed that every time, you know, it said God said or Elohim said, then it was a dimension being made. So I just thought that was interesting, and I'd mention it since we're speaking about dimensions. 10 or 12 dimensions. Okay, so the 12 can come into play from Revelations 21, because there's 12 gates of the New Jerusalem. Okay, so let's listen to that, and then we'll talk about New Jerusalem more.
"And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. And her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. And had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel."
So if we, in a minute after, we're going to talk about the New Jerusalem, but think about this while we're listening to this, about the 12 gates and the 12 angels, okay, like the Garden of Eden, with the swinging sword with the cherub, right, and the flaming sword. It was swinging around, and it was splitting the dimensions, keeping them from going through the portal or whirlwind, right? So this is the same type of thing. The angels are there But now, since we're there in the New Jerusalem, we'll be able to move through these gates as we will, as Jesus does.
On the east, 3 gates. On the north, 3 gates. On the south, 3 gates. And on the west, 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb.
And it's interesting, there's 12 foundations, and what else is interesting is like it's going in every direction. East 3 gates, north 3 gates, south 3 gates, west 3 gates. So like to get into the Garden of Eden, it was only on the east of Eden that the cherubims were placed, right? So it's interesting how this, you can go everywhere you want to go. Right, you can go through whatever. This is what I believe is we'll be able to move through different dimensions and stuff through this New Jerusalem and through the new earth. Because if you look at my teaching on the New Jerusalem, the new earth, and the new heaven, it's the same as us. We have a resurrected body, the new earth. We have a soul which is going to be in the New Jerusalem with the King, right? Because Jesus is the King of the city. And we have a spirit, and the spirit returns to God from which it came. And that's when we'll be worshiping day and night before the throne, you see. But we'll be doing all of these things at once, right? But separate, like a Trinity, you know. We will be like a Trinity in a way. Not like the Trinity, Elohim, but we'll be like him. Like it says, we will be like him. But we don't know exactly what that is yet till we get there, you see. Because we, you know, eyes have not seen or ears heard what he has in store for us, right? Okay.
And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall thereof. And the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal.
So the dimension parts are equal. All the dimensions now are equal. You can move in between them, you see, as Jesus does, right? As the Father does on his throne, like Elijah, like Ezekiel saw, right? Okay, and okay.
And he measured the wall thereof, 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third a chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth a topaz, the 10th a chrysoprasus, the 11th a jacinth, the 12th an amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls.
And we know the pearl is like Jesus. He's the gate. He's the door in, right? So he can move back and forth. And the 12 gates are pearls. Every single gate was of one pearl. And the streets of the city was pure gold as it were, right, like glass. Okay, so you see, Jesus is the pearl. Why? Because the pearl, it's the only jewel that's created out of suffering, right, of the flesh. Okay, so Jesus is like the jewel. It's a representation of him. And he is the way in and out, okay, like in John 10. So when we get to this state, we'll be able to do those things also like he does. I think that's pretty cool. So 12 dimensions, 12 gates. You see that? Okay.
Every several gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there.
You see, so the gates will never shut. Right now the gates are shut, so things from Tartarus angels in the eternal darkness can't move through. The doors are shut. You see, Aleister Crowley, when he was trying to do his things to open up portals, or the Babylon, what's it called? The Babylon, whatever, with L. Ron Hubbard and what's his name? I forget his name. I always forget his name. But, the rocket scientist or whatever. His name's right on the tip of my tongue. Jack Parsons, right? They're the Babylon working. They were trying to open up gates, open up other dimensions. CERN trying to open up other dimensions, but they're not supposed to be open right now until Satan and all his fallen angels, until all the evil is thrown into the lake of fire, into the outer darkness, into the second death. Okay, so that all that's wiped out, and then we can move freely through these dimensions, because there's probably stuff in these dimensions that we don't want to have anything to do with. Right? Okay. So, but once everything is fixed and complete, like it was supposed to be from the beginning, right before the fall and sin came into the world, the gates will be open for us to move through every dimension. You see that?
And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life.
So you see that is what, there's no night there, so there's no darkness, right? Because the darkness comprehended it not. There's no liars, there's no thief, there's no abominations, period. So there's no Nephilim, there's none of that, right? Okay, so there's none of that there. That's why we can move back and forth through those dimensions. Do you see? Okay, I hope y'all see that. Let me see my notes. So now, Revelations, speaking of that, the New Jerusalem, Revelations 21:12, we just kind of listened to it, but I'll read this part. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Okay, so that's why people will be like, why do we need a resurrected body? And it won't be for lustful things and things of the world that we do now. We won't want to do those things anymore. But it will be like it was supposed to be from the creation in paradise, right? And that's what our resurrected bodies are for. But the oldness has passed away, so you won't want to do those other wicked, sinful things anymore. There won't be any sin there. You see, we won't have sin in us or the lust to do the sin. There won't be any more war in our members back and forth between the law of sin and the law of God, right? Or the spirit and the flesh battling each other. It won't be that way anymore. The spirit will rule, right? Our souls will rule us, because I believe we'll be a lot like Jesus was. We'll be able to think clearly. Okay, so New Jerusalem and its gates lead to the new earth. Okay, so that's what these are: the old earth and the new heaven and new earth. The first heaven and the first earth are passed away; they're gone. Now this is this perfect creation that we go into, like the garden, and we go back and forth there. And the gates from the New Jerusalem lead us to there. They're portals to these other dimensions. And this is what I believe, kind of like every possible reality or universe exists for us. After all is finished with this world and judgment, we'll be able to go and experience things in a holy way, as the way it was intended to be. But you have to be saved, born again, to enter in. Okay, and if you want to read again, Revelations 21 through 27, it explains that in a way, okay, that we have to be perfect to be able to go in between these and experience everything. And so I kind of believe that you'll be able to go in, there won't really be any time, but if you want to experience something from your childhood, but it would have been like to have been perfect, sinless, I believe you'll be able to do that. That's what these gates will lead to many different things that our minds can't even imagine right now, since we're not in that spiritual realm, you see. Revelations 21:1 says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth. I already read that, sorry. I'm trying to think about what else I want to say before I play these other verses. But I guess now we'll just see that about how it'll be a new earth in Isaiah 65, 16 through 25, which says this.
That he who blesseth himself in the earth shall bless himself in the God of truth. And he that sweareth in the earth shall swear by the God of truth, because the former troubles are forgotten.
See, they're gone.
And because they are hid from mine eyes.
Okay, see?
For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind.
And see, the former sins and all the bad stuff, you won't remember that. You won't comprehend it. It just won't be there anymore, okay? You won't. That's why people in heaven, people will be like, oh, well, I wonder if people are sad because, you know, they're separated or something like that, or if one of their loved ones is in hell or something like that, right? Well, I don't think that that's how you even think anymore. You don't think like that. Now, if they're there with you, you do perceive them, and you do know that who they are and who you are, and you're the good type things, but all the evil is passed away to where there's none of that stuff anymore.
But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy.
See, a rejoicing.
And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying.
See, so Jesus is their king, and there's no crying, there's no any of that, okay? But just joy, and everything's perfect.
There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands.
And see, it's interesting because if you look at it in verse 20, there shall be no more there an infant of days, okay, nor an old man that has not fulfilled his days. Why? Because there's no time there, okay? For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed, because there's no sinners there. They're accursed. They're already gone, you see. And the child isn't going to die, okay? For the child shall die 100 years old, right? So but he just said up here, no more than there an infant of days, because there's no time there. So the infant's not going to die. It's going to be able to experience a whole sense of like life as an infant, but as an old person. There's no time there, and the sinners are accursed because they're not allowed in. You see. And it's like Ken Peters, he talked about in his video, I Saw the Tribulation, and he said when he saw the rapture, or whatever you want to call it, the resurrection of the dead, when that happened, the dead rose first and then the living, and how he said when they came out of the graves, it was like a violent explosion and light shot up. And he said what he saw was when an old person came out of the grave, they didn't look, he knew he could perceive that they were older when they died, but they didn't look like that. They looked full of strength and kind of young at the same time, old and young. He said the same thing with the children. They looked old but young. It was weird. He said it's hard to describe it, but like that's what this is kind of talking about. There shall be no more there an infant of days, nor an old man that has not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. Okay, because an infant isn't going to be 100 years old. You see, so it ain't going to die. Is really what he's saying. It ain't going to die because it won't be 100 years old, or it won't be an infant. Okay. I was just trying to make sure that y'all understood that, because some people could read it and see, oh, there's sinners there, but really it says they're accursed. And if you put it with Revelations, there is no sin there, okay, in the new earth and New Jerusalem.
They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer.
Hallelujah.
And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord.
Right? So Jerusalem, the holy mountain, right? The new Jerusalem. And I mean, see, even like the wolf and the lamb and everything's together, and the lion, and I mean, even the bullock. And you could read into that a lot if you wanted to. I don't have time right now to read into all of it, but the wolf, okay, wolves in sheep's clothing, the lamb, Jesus, we're all like lambs. The lion, you know, the Lion of Judah, or, you know, Satan the lion, you know, seeking whom he may devour. The bullock, Baal, you know, the bull god, and dust shall the serpent's meat eat, you know what I mean? So you could read into that a lot, that like everything could be fixed, right? And there would be no evil, but these evil entities are gone, you know what I mean? But you could also read it, it's just weird, you could read into it a lot, but anyway. Okay, so you see that, but okay, so to end it, but you have to be saved, born again, by Jesus to enter into this New Jerusalem, to just heaven at all, the heaven of heavens, okay, and this New Jerusalem thing, and these different dimensions, okay. It's only Jesus can get you there, and we can see that also in John 10:7-10, which says this.
Then said Jesus unto them again,
Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved. And
okay, so it's interesting because he's saying that, verily I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. Okay, his people, the ones that were written in the Lamb's Book of Life, right? From foundation of the world, okay? So they hear. Now there's a lot, all that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them, okay? There's a lot of other people like Aleister Crowley, and way before that, like I talked about in my other video before, that, you know, try to open up these things and try to move into them, or tell you how to get into other spiritual realms and things like that, but only Jesus is the way to get there. And if you ever notice that all these other people who tamper with this stuff, bad things happen to them, evil comes upon them. Like, I was watching a documentary where this man, his daughter went and searched for him because he wrote all the, I can't remember what his name is, but they wrote all these books to where he was searching how to get into El Dorado, a city of gold, and things like that. He said he found how to open up other dimensions, and he wrote this letter saying that he's fixing to move to this other dimension or something, and if he never comes back, then he loves them and all this other stuff, and he just disappeared. They don't know what happened to him. But it's, if you're trying to move in these other dimensions without Jesus, you could move into the wrong one, and you could end up in Tartarus or something, you know, like a dimension where God the Father never intended for humans to go in this state. You see, because in our resurrected state, we're indestructible, incorruptible, which is translated also indestructible. So if we went to some dimension where there's big, huge monsters or something like that with an indestructible body like Jesus, they can't do nothing, right? What are they going to do? You could probably wipe them out. You see what I mean? Like David fighting Nephilim and giants and things like that. So that's why Jesus can just destroy him with the words of his mouth, the sword that comes out of his mouth. He can just take them out like that. But when we get there, it's going to be all fixed. So if we move to these dimensions, it won't be a problem for us, right? Because the Father takes care of all of it. Okay. So that's why, though, these doors and these locks and these gates were put up to these other dimensions, because we weren't supposed to tamper with it. And when other people do, bad things come about when other humans try to open it up.
Go in and out and find pasture. The thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy.
Right.
I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep.
And see, as the good shepherd, he's already looked at all the pastures, dimensions, spiritual realms, and everything else. Well, first of all, because he created all of it anyway. But second, he's cleansed it all, okay? So you can go into any pasture you want. He's already looked for all the wolves and the lions and, you know, the tigers and the coyotes and, you know, all of those things. He's got rid of all of those things. All the thieves that want to come in and kill you and eat you and destroy you, okay? And you notice in verse 9, I am the door, by me if any man enters in, he shall be saved. Okay, you want to enter into these other dimensions and go to heaven and spiritual realms, you have to go through Him, believe in Him, that He's the Son of God, that He has control of all this, and He died for your sins and everything else. Okay, but what does He say? And you this is talking about us, shall go in and come out and find pasture. In a dimension, out of a dimension, and find pasture in them, because they'll be peaceful again, like you're saying in Isaiah. Okay, I hope y'all see that. I hope it makes sense. I know it's hard to explain. Like some of it, sometimes it's up here and it's hard to get out of here, and it's hard to, to explain. But I see it, and I hope y'all see it too, because it's just you don't know. You can't put God in a box to say like, what He can do and what He can't do, and because we can't even imagine it, like it says, right? Like Paul wrote, you can't even imagine it. All right, well, thank you guys. We can watch for Yeshua. God is love, and I love God. Amen.